She walked slowly toward him after entering his palace with permission from his guards. Her steps were heavy as she approached him, sorrow in her eyes, unsure how to speak, how to confess what she had done, or how to admit that he had been hurt because of her. She sat beside him while he kept his face buried in his hands, sitting in place, grieving over what had happened to his brother and father. With hesitation, she placed her hand on his back. He slowly lifted his face, finally revealing his features to her. She noticed the redness in his eyes and the sorrow that clouded them. Gently, she raised her hand to touch his face with tenderness. "Are you okay, my love?" Clara whispered. My entire He looked at her for a few seconds through teary eyes before he embraced her suddenly, pulling her into his lap, burying his face in her chest. He inhaled deeply, her perfume calming his heart. She ran her hands through his hair, cradling his head delicately against her chest, trying to ignore the pain in her heart. "Hold me a little tighter, my love. I'm freezing without your heat," she whispered, hugging him firmly as he clutched her to his body. She buried her face in his hair, feeling the warmth of his body as he encircled her waist with his strong arms, pulling her closer to him. She closed her eyes, feeling the thudding of his heartbeat against her chest, the sound of life, of the man she loved, beating steadily in his chest. "Stay like this with me for hours, no, for days. I will not move nor let go of you," he murmured into her breast, his breath sending tingles down her skin. She held tighter. The sound of something falling in the kitchen woke him up with a start. He got out of his chair and moved quickly toward the kitchen. "Clara, are you okay?" He entered the kitchen worriedly. She was standing in front of the stove, stirring the soup. She took a shaky, deep breath before she answered in a cheerful tone. "Yes, my love. I just dropped the spoon. No big problem." He observed her silently for a few seconds before he moved toward her and embraced her from behind, his arms encircling her slender waist. He tensed, his arms still around her and his face in her hair. "What was that?" he whispered. She placed her hand on his arm around her waist, trying to hide her trembling. "I don't know, maybe a rat or something," she replied, attempting to sound casual. Suddenly, the sound of the front door opening reached their ears, followed by footsteps approaching them. His grip tightened around her body, pulling her closer as he scanned the room for potential dangers. "Stay behind me, love," he whispered, his voice firm as he shifted in front of her protectively, his eyes focused on the kitchen door, expecting the intruder to enter any second. The footsteps grew louder, approaching the kitchen, and he tensed his body, preparing for a possible assault. The door suddenly opened and revealed a middle-aged man with a revolver pointing directly at them. "Don't move," the man ordered coldly. Mark's eyes narrowed, anger and determination hardening his features. He took a step back, pulling Clara behind him even more firmly, shielding her with his body. "Who are you? What do you want?" he demanded, his voice filled with anger and a hint of protectiveness over Clara. The man, still pointing the revolver at them, calmly took another step closer, scanning them both with a calculating gaze. "I came for your lovely girlfriend here," the man replied, his gaze fixed on Clara. Mark's eyes widened, his body tensing further as he clenched his jaw. He instinctively put himself more in front of her, shielding her completely. "You're not taking her anywhere," he retorted, his voice resolute. The man smirked, amused by Mark's protectiveness. "And what makes you think you can stop me?" "I'll kill you before you even lay a hand on her," Mark warned, his eyes filled with a fierce resolve. The man chuckled, not fazed by the threat. "You have guts, kid. I'll give you that." Mark's grip on Clara tightened, his heart pounding from fear for her safety. "Don't you dare touch her," he warned again, his voice growing more dangerous. The man raised an eyebrow, a smirk still playing on his lips. "I like your spirit, really? But you don't seem to understand the situation. You have two options." Mark's glare hardened, his jaw clenched. "I'm listening." The man's smirk widened as he continued. "Option 1, you step aside, I take the girl, and I leave peaceful and unharmed. Option 2, you try something stupid, and I shoot you both on the spot." Mark's gaze flicked from the revolver to the man's face, and then to Clara. His mind raced, weighing the options, the risks, and the chances of escaping with her unharmed. "I won't let you take her," he repeated firmly, his voice filled with determination. The man chuckled, his smirk growing even wider. "You think you have a choice here? You're outnumbered and outgunned. Your only chance is to cooperate and hope for the best." Mark's grip on Clara remained firm, his mind struggling to find a way out. He could feel her trembling behind him, her fear mixing with his own. The man's patience grew thin, his smirk replaced by a frustrated frown. "Time's up, kid. I'm tired of your heroics. Step aside, and this can all be over quickly." Mark's eyes darted around the room, searching for a potential escape route or any object that could be used as a weapon. But the room was bare, and the man had the upper hand with the pistol pointed directly at them. The man grew impatient, his grip on the revolver tightening. "Last chance, smartass. Step aside now." Mark stood firmly in his place, his mind in turmoil. He knew he couldn't let the man take her, but he also knew the situation seemed hopeless. The sound of sirens pierced the tense atmosphere in the room, causing the man to freeze. Mark's heart skipped a beat as he recognized the sound of approaching police vehicles. The man's face twisted in alarm. "Cops! God damn it!" He looked around, his mind racing for a way out. Mark's eyes widened, a spark of hope igniting within him. This was their chance. He took a deep breath, his grip on Clara loosening slightly, his focus shifting. The man's gaze flickered between Mark and the kitchen window, his mind calculating his options. The sirens grew louder, the police cars drawing closer by the second. Cursing under his breath, the man began backing towards the window, his steps cautious and deliberate. Mark's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He watched the man carefully, still shielding Clara behind him with his body. Just then, the kitchen door burst open as heavily armed police officers stormed into the room, their voices booming over the din. "Hands up! Police!" The man's eyes widened as he found himself surrounded, the revolver still clutched in his hand. He looked around, his options rapidly diminishing. Mark breathed a sigh of relief, his grip on Clara loosening further as he turned his focus now on her. She looked up at him, her gaze filled with a mix of fear and gratitude. The police officers advanced on the man, shouting orders for him to drop the weapon and surrender. Mark, still holding Clara, watched as the man was quickly overpowered and handcuffed, the revolver clattering to the ground. The room grew quiet as the adrenaline ebbed away, leaving behind a mixture of relief and shock. Mark, still holding Clara close, felt the tension leaving his body, replaced by a sudden wave of exhaustion. The lead officer approached them, his expression serious but compassionate. "Are you two all right?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. Mark nodded, his gaze fixed on Clara as he wrapped an arm around her protectively. "Yes, we're okay. Thanks to your quick response." The officer nodded, his gaze shifting to Clara. "We came as soon as we received your call for help. You did good, miss." Clara managed a small, wobbly smile, her fear slowly giving way to a sense of safety. She leaned into Mark's embrace, seeking comfort and protection. The officer turned to the handcuffed man, who was being escorted out of the room by his fellow officers. "We'll take it from here. You both can give your statements later at the station." Mark nodded. His main concern at that moment was Clara's safety and well-being. As the room slowly emptied, leaving only him and Clara, he gently drew her even closer, his arms encircling her trembling form. She buried her face in his chest, tears finally escaping her eyes as the reality of what had happened sank in. He ran his fingers soothingly through her hair, his heart breaking at the sound of her stifled sobs. "Shh, it's okay now, love. You're safe. You're safe," he whispered, trying to soothe her as he held her close, his own heart still racing from the adrenaline and fear. She clutched him tightly, her tears staining his shirt as she tried to compose herself. Gradually, her sobs subsided, replaced by the gentle rhythm of their combined breathing. He continued stroking her hair, his other hand resting on the small of her back, keeping her close. Neither of them spoke, simply taking solace in each other's presence and reassuring touch. "I was so scared," she whispered finally, her voice barely audible against his chest. "I know, love," he murmured, hugging her tighter. "But you're safe now. I won't let anything hurt you, I promise." She looked up at him, her eyes still watery, but filled with a mixture of gratitude and affection. He cupped her face in his hands, gently wiping away her tears with his thumbs. Their gazes locked, and for a moment, words seemed unnecessary. He leaned down, capturing her lips in a tender kiss, expressing all the unspoken emotions and relief coursing through them both. She melted into his kiss, her fears easing as she felt the comfort and love radiating from his touch. They broke the kiss, resting their foreheads against each other, panting lightly. "I can't lose you," he whispered, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I can't imagine my life without you. I love you so much." "I love you too, my darling," she replied softly, her fingers tracing his jawline. "And I'm never leaving your side. I promise." He pulled her back into his arms, holding her tightly, his mind replaying the events that had just unfolded. The danger they had just faced had made him realize that moments like this, holding her close and knowing she was safe, were precious beyond measure. They stood there in each other's arms, silently comforted by the steady rhythm of their heartbeats. The trauma of the near abduction had left its mark, but it had also deepened their bond, strengthening the love they shared. "We should probably get checked up by a doctor," he murmured, still holding her close. "Just to make sure everything's all right." She nodded, her body slightly tired but her heart full. "Yes, we should. But first, I just want to stay like this a little longer. Just a few more minutes." He chuckled softly, gently stroking her hair. "As you wish, my love. We'll take all the time we need." And so they stood there, wrapped in each other's embrace, finding solace and strength in each other's presence. grateful for the chance to simply be together and cherish their love. As they stood there, intertwined in each other's arms, a sense of tranquility washed over them, replacing the fear and tension that had gripped them just moments before. They held each other tighter, not wanting to let go, as if they were afraid the reality of the danger they had just faced would engulf them once they pulled apart. Clara's mind was still racing, the events of the day replaying in her head like a never-ending loop. However, the gentle caress of Mark's hand on her back was soothing, grounding her in the present moment, away from the fear and panic creeping back into her thoughts. He held her close, his hand rubbing small circles on her back in a calming motion, his other hand softly playing with her hair. He could feel her trembling easing as she leaned into his touch, finding comfort in his presence. "Everything's all right now, love," he whispered, his voice like a gentle breeze. "We're safe, and that's all that matters. You don't have to be afraid anymore."